Did you know that some of Hollywood's most glamorous Golden Age stars couldn't resist swiping the very jewels, props, and trinkets that surrounded them? Those secret compulsions cost studios a fortune, shattered reputations, and forever changed the legacies of silver screen legends. Stay tuned as we unmask 13 glittering icons whose sticky fingers reveal a darker side to Tinseltown's sparkle. Smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss the next jaw-dropping chapter of hidden Hollywood history. Zsa Zsa Gabor. Zsa Zsa Gabor paraded wealth like a peacock, yet insiders claimed the Hungarian-American socialite couldn't resist swiping hotel ashtrays, emerald-tipped pens, even monogrammed napkins from royal banquets. In 1953, a Monte Carlo jeweler accused her of walking out with a sapphire bracelet forgotten on her wrist. Zsa Zsa flashed a disarming smile, claimed confusion, and paid double its value on the spot, spinning the ordeal into a publicity frolic. Kleptomania for Gabor was less about need than narrative control. Each petty theft birthed another headline, reinforcing her brand as the irrepressible diva who played by her own rules. "Darling, I never borrow. I sample," she quipped on a talk show, waving a silver spoon she'd filched from the studio canteen mid-interview. But the larcenous shtick backfired when studios worried advertisers might link their products to a star who normalized stealing. Casting calls dwindled, talk shows relegated her to flamboyant guest slots rather than leading lady seats. Meanwhile, younger audiences embraced new icons, leaving Zsa Zsa chasing relevance through scandal rather than artistry. Behind the boas lay insecurity born of exile and survival. After fleeing wartime Europe, the Gabor sisters clawed for permanence in a fickle Hollywood. Stealing tangible objects, no matter how small, offered Zsa Zsa the tactile assurance that she still existed amid constant reinvention. When she faced bankruptcy filings in the 1980s, many items auctioned were those same pocketed souvenirs, a bittersweet testament that her compulsion had, in the end, helped keep the lights on. Her story shows how glamour can gloss over wounds that shimmer long after the cameras stop rolling. Judy Garland. Long before The Wizard of Oz minted her as America's sweetheart, Judy Garland wrestled with impulses no studio press release would dare mention. Crew members on the MGM lot whispered that little Judy loved to wander the costume warehouse after hours, slipping rhinestone bracelets and hairpins, props meant for someone else's scene, into the pockets of her gingham dress. In 1940, a seamstress reportedly discovered a velvet pouch of missing brooches under Garland's makeup chair. Louis B. Mayer ordered it hushed, terrified a shoplifting scandal would shatter her wholesome box office image. Psychiatrists later called these episodes kleptomania, fueled by extreme control loss. Garland's life was a carousel of diet pills, rigid call times, and executives dictating her every calorie. Stealing tiny treasures, no matter how trivial, gave her a momentary surge of agency. But each rush was followed by dread. What if the studio found out? That fear gnawed at her, compounding insomnia and driving her deeper into the very pill regime that magnified compulsions. The pattern followed her into wartime USO tours. Fellow performers teased that Judy's footlockers always seemed heavier on return flights. Rattling with borrowed perfume, flaskins, and cufflinks gifted to generals, or so she claimed. When a military quartermaster filed a formal inquiry about missing insignia pins, Garland's team arranged a discreet donation to veterans' hospitals, recasting the theft as charitable enthusiasm. Yet the rumor cost her a coveted dramatic role. Producers feared newspaper headlines equating their prestige project with petty crime. By the 1950s, as her career seesawed between comeback concerts and hospital stays, Judy would sometimes hand fans trinkets from her purse, lipstick still sealed, backstage boutonnieres, even the odd hotel teaspoon. Those gifts felt like apologies she couldn't articulate. They also spotlighted a tragic irony. The girl who gave the world Over the Rainbow kept chasing a surge of color in her own grayscale existence, pocketing sparkle where she could find it until the curtain finally fell in 1969. Garland's kleptomania underscores how fame's golden cage can twist bright talent into shadowed corners. Tierney. To the public, Jean Tierney floated through noir classics like Lorre with aristocratic poise. But behind the camera, she cultivated a secret scent collection. Hundreds of boutique perfume bottles, many never purchased. In 1948, an upscale Beverly Hills chemist caught her sliding a French flacon into her handbag after ordering only lipstick. Tierney's startled apology, "I forgot I was holding it," convinced clerks to let her walk free. Yet studio investigators tallied similar incidents stretching back years. Unlike brash publicity seekers, Jean stole in silence, almost methodically. Friends blamed lingering trauma from her wartime marriage breakdown and the heartbreaking birth of her rubella-stricken daughter Daria. Aromas, psychologists theorized, transported Tierney to safer memories. Pocketing fragrances became olfactory escapism. But when gossip columnist Luella Parsons sniffed out the story, she framed it as spoiled stardom gone rotten. And 20th Century Fox panicked. Insurance carriers hiked premiums on any set using antique props. One period picture replaced crystal atomizers with cheap glass to curb temptation. Directors who once fought to cast Tierney now fretted about halted shoots and negative press, slicing her billing beneath ingenues she'd previously eclipsed. The kleptomania also complicated her love life. Fiancé Prince Ali Khan allegedly broke off their whirlwind romance after hotel staff complained of misplaced silver trinket boxes during their Riviera stay. Tierney's eventual voluntary admission to Menninger Clinic in 1953, publicly described as treatment for exhaustion, secretly addressed depression and compulsive behaviors. Her candid interviews upon return, in which she conceded unaccountable urges to possess, earned public sympathy, but could not rebuild the A-list offers that had evaporated. Still, she transformed pain into advocacy, quietly funding research for maternal health and mental illness destigmatization. Jean's tale illustrates kleptomania not as comic eccentricity, but as a cry for control amid tragedies even stardom couldn't insulate. Errol Flynn. Errol Flynn fenced, sailed, and seduced his way through Hollywood legend. Yet the most improbable pirate raids occurred off-camera in hotel gift shops. Crew folklore maintains that during the Seahawks shoot, Flynn bet his stunt doubles he could commandeer every compass sold in San Pedro's harbor market without paying a cent. By wrap day, he unveiled a sack of 15 brass compasses, bragging they'd steer him home to mischief. Flynn viewed thievery as sport, snatching cigar cutters from producers' desks, monogrammed towels from rival studio bungalows, even a mounted swordfish off a Malibu bar wall. He mailed it back weeks later with a cheeky autograph. But repeated pranks birthed real consequences. In 1943, a Beverly Hills jeweler pressed charges after Flynn pocketed a platinum tie pin. Warner Brothers shelled out hush money and warned him any further scandal could void his contract at the height of World War II patriotism. Psychologists might label Flynn's antics kleptomania masked by bravado. Diagnosed later with chronic alcoholism and a heart condition, he confessed in letters that thefts filled empty stretches between the cheers, an adrenaline shot against boredom. But insurers grew wary. Antique props vanished from sets, halting production schedules when replacements couldn't be sourced mid-war. Studio accountants calculated losses mounting into tens of thousands, far more than Flynn's box office profits offset. By the early 1950s, Hollywood's appetite for his rakish grin faded, hastened by rumors he stole not just hearts but wallets. He relocated to Europe for lower-budget adventures, clinging to swashbuckler mythology even as health and finances deteriorated. A 1958 Spanish tavern brawl allegedly began when an innkeeper accused him of slipping silver candlesticks under his cape, a charge never proven, yet instantly believed. Flynn's legacy thus sails on, equal parts daring hero and compulsive marauder, proving the line between performance and pathology can blur until no map charts safe passage back. Bette Davis. Bette Davis owned every set she walked onto, but insiders joked she also owned half the props, courtesy of her roaming handbag. During All About Eve, a prop master discovered a pearl-inlaid cigarette case missing after Davis rapped her famous "Fasten Your Seatbelts" monologue. It resurfaced weeks later in her dressing room vanity, prompting a studio memo politely reminding cast to respect property integrity. Davis quipped to crew, "They practically wrote that speech for me." Defiance masking embarrassment. For Davis, kleptomania fused with perfectionism. She amassed objet d'art to rehearse character mannerisms at home, convinced authenticity sprouted from tactile familiarity. Yet once a role ended, she couldn't return the items. They had absorbed pieces of her performance. Warner Brothers tolerated the habit through the 1930s because every swipe shawl or brooch seemed to earn another Oscar nomination. But as box office receipts dipped in the late 40s, executives rebranded the quirk a liability. A 1950 incident turned the tide. Neiman Marcus security stopped Davis for leaving with unpaid evening gloves. Rather than hush it, gossip guru Hedda Hopper blasted the headline, framing it as a fading diva's desperate grab at relevance. Advertisers threatened to pull sponsorship from radio dramas featuring Davis, fearing association with theft. Roles shifted from regal leads to eccentric matrons. Her clout to dictate scripts all but vanished. Privately, Davis confronted the compulsion in therapy, tracing it to childhood poverty and a terror of losing hard-won status. She began mailing anonymous envelopes stuffed with cash to prop departments, symbolic restitution for decades of borrowing. Though her career rebounded with "Whatever Happened to Baby Jane?", she never again possessed the unchecked freedom of her early reign. The backstage souvenir boxes stacked in her Connecticut attic testified both to a ferocious commitment to craft and to the shadowed craving that artistry alone could not still. Her story closes this segment with a reminder. Sometimes the most commanding presences on screen battle insecurities that drive them to snatch fragments of the world they already own. Mickey Rooney. When Mickey Rooney burst onto screens as Andy Hardy, America saw a perpetual bundle of joy, but MGM security saw a headache in short trousers. From his adolescence, Rooney treated the vast studio property room like a personal curiosity shop, collecting everything from pocket watches to fencing foils. Grips joked that if a prop weighed less than 10 pounds, Mickey would try to adopt it. One afternoon in 1942, a still photographer caught him stuffing a ruby-red celluloid telephone, destined for another film, inside his Letterman jacket. Rooney flashed a grin, called it part of my research, and strolled away. Behind the bravado lurked a boy who had never truly owned anything. Raised on the vaudeville circuit, Mickey learned that possessions disappeared as fast as bookings. Pocketing shiny objects became a talisman against that instability. But as the trinket pile in his dressing room swelled, so did MGM's concern. Insurance premiums spiked after a jeweled cigarette case, on loan from Tiffany's for a single close-up, vanished. Executives forced Rooney into an on-lot amnesty day where he returned 3 crates of items, no questions asked. The inventory sheet ran 15 pages, yet the habit persisted. During wartime tours, he would challenge servicemen to friendly dice games, winner keeps the lighter, only to switch his own dented Zippo for their engraved heirloom mid-handshake. Publicists patched over the fallout by branding it harmless horseplay from a beloved jester, but producers grew wary. By the late 1940s, roles requiring costly period props quietly avoided his name, and the actor who once topped box office polls felt Hollywood's gatekeepers closing. Rooney's sticky-fingered antics foreshadowed a lifelong struggle with impulse, whether gambling, whirlwind marriages, or bursts of petty theft well into his golden years. Each recovery comeback he staged glittered, then dimmed beneath another lapse. In interviews, he later confessed, "Stealing gave me a laugh, but it stole a lot more back." His story paints kleptomania not as comic relief, but as a warning that childhood voids can echo forever, no matter how loud the applause. Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford's immaculate image, arched eyebrows, crisp shoulders, and lethal poise, hid a fascination with the luxury that once excluded her. Department store clerks in 1934 Oklahoma City still recounted how she drifted through lingerie aisles, caressing silk gloves, then walking out without paying. The manager, dazzled by the rising star, mailed the bill to MGM instead of the police. Studio fixer Eddie Mannix settled it quietly, but Crawford's misplaced accessories multiplied with her fame. Friends described her Beverly Hills home as a museum of appropriated elegance. Baccarat ashtrays, hotel-crested towels, sterling shoehorns from London Savile Row. Crawford labeled them tokens of appreciation, mementos of hospitality she felt her presence conferred. Psychologists might see classic kleptomania fed by early deprivation. Born Lucille LeSueur, she scrubbed diner floors before Hollywood renamed her. Seizing opulent objects became a tactile rewrite of her hardscrabble story. Trouble peaked during Humoresque, 1946, when a set designer reported a missing Art Deco music box worth $2,000. Warner Brothers, fearing insurance cancellation, docked Crawford's paycheck and leaked a rumor blaming an anonymous crew member. Joan, incandescent with humiliation, retaliated by financing a private makeover of the studio's ladies' lounge, installing marble vanities and, pointedly, a locked cabinet for props. The gesture half redeemed her, but gossip columnists never forgot, and glove-snatcher jokes shadowed future press tours. As Crawford aged into villainous matriarch roles, critics read her steely aura through the lens of stolen finery, each glinting brooch another reminder of the star's secret vice. In later years, she donated cases of souvenirs to charity auctions, claiming philanthropy over penance. Still, the myth endured, that no matter how vast her walk-in closet, Crawford could not silence the dread of returning to broom-handle poverty. Her tale exposes kleptomania as a scar of insecurity polished until it passes for glamour. Gloria Graham, film noir siren. Gloria Graham radiated danger on screen, and some of that edge bled into real life, particularly when she began pocketing confidential script pages from rival actresses. During The Bad and the Beautiful, insiders alleged she lifted Lana Turner's dialogue sheets, slipping them into her handbag along with lipstick and fountain pens. That same week, stationery counters at Bullock's Wilshire flagged her for pilfering embossed notepads. Studios wrote checks. Gloria kept the Oscar. Why paper? Graham confessed to a therapist that the rustle of purloined pages soothed her like a lullaby. Adopted at birth and shuttled through unstable households, she equated ownership of words, anyone's words, with permanence. But the habit escalated. In 1955, RKO halted production on Oklahoma. For 2 days, when annotated shooting schedules disappeared, crew found them in Graham's trailer, hidden beneath dozens of unopened diaries. She claimed she was studying the dance numbers. The union billed the delay at $50,000. Producers began issuing her color-coded prop copies that self-destructed in water, an expensive workaround that branded her high maintenance. Leading lady offers waned, steering Graham toward lurid B pictures where budget losses were smaller. Co-stars bristled, guarding purses on set, while directors worried about litigation if storyline leaks reached tabloids. The very scripts she stole became bars in a cage that shrank around her career. Later, battling cancer and financial ruin, Gloria auctioned 12 crates of memorabilia, many items she had once filched for comfort. Bidders paid handsomely for authentic prop menus and love letter inserts, unaware they came from scenes she never shot. Graham's fixation on the written word reveals kleptomania not just as compulsion, but as a desperate bid to author the life fate withheld. Red Skelton. Red Skelton's clownish brilliance filled box offices with laughter, but MGM accountants weren't smiling when inventory checks uncovered alarming shrinkage. Costume racks missed hats, umbrellas, even a full clown car trunk. Security finally tailed Skelton after a rap party in 1951 and caught him transferring prop bowler hats into the trunk of his Cadillac. His explanation? "I'm rehearsing a gag for the troops. Thought I'd save the studio shipping." The truth, colleagues suspected, was more personal. Skelton, devastated by the childhood loss of his father and haunted by the accidental death of his son in 1958, sought solace in tangible tokens of his comic alter egos. Each pilfered prop preserved a laugh he feared would fade, but insurance carriers threatened to blacklist productions starring him unless MGM installed 24-hour guards on costume warehouses, a cost the studio grudged through gritted teeth. When a 1953 audit linked him to $12,000 worth of missing vaudeville memorabilia, MGM Legal opted to publicize his generous USO work instead of pursuing charges. The public forgave, but executives did not forget. Skelton's feature film roles dried up, nudging him toward television, where budgets and prop rooms were smaller. Ironically, the move salvaged his career. The Red Skelton Hour ran for 2 decades. Yet rumors of locked prop closets followed him from soundstage to soundstage. In retirement, Skelton revealed rooms in his Palm Springs home, lined floor to ceiling with antique gag items, squirting flowers, oversized shoes, trick canes, many never used on camera. He donated most to the International Clown Hall of Fame, writing in the bequest, "May these toys find more laughter than I had time to give." His last act reframed kleptomania as a melancholy plea. Hold tight to laughter before it slips away. Lana Turner. Lana Turner's life sparkled like the diamonds she wore on screen. Yet one autumn evening in 1961, she found herself in a dim police station, accused of slipping a $35 silk scarf into her handbag at a chic Beverly Hills boutique. Eyewitnesses swore they saw the sweater girl pause, glance, and glide the fabric beneath her purse flap. Studio publicists raced to smother the story, whispering that Lana was just distracted by an urgent phone call. But insiders whispered something else. Turner had been quietly lifting small luxuries for years, chasing a thrill the box office could not provide. Psychologists later suggested kleptomania offered Lana the illusion of control in a life ruled by gossip columns, abusive romances, and the haunting 1958 stabbing of Johnny Stompanato by her teenage daughter. Stealing was a pocket-sized rebellion, proof she still held power over fate. Yet the fallout bruised her career. MGM stalled her next starring role, fearing suburban mothers would boycott matinees. Lana's contract shrank, and though the charges were ultimately dropped, the scarf became an unspoken warning around town. Friends recalled how Turner's boudoir overflowed with silk gloves, brooches, and perfume bottles still sporting price tags. She rarely used them. Possessing was enough. The compulsion gnawed at her self-worth, forcing an endless loop of contrition and relapse, each incident deepening the studio's reluctance to cast her as wholesome heroines. By the late 1960s, the once unstoppable siren was accepting B pictures and TV guest spots, her legend overshadowed by a strip of silk that never even matched her outfit. Lana's story reminds us that beneath the satin gowns and Technicolor smiles, addiction can lurk, silent, sophisticated, and ready to cost everything. Hedy Lamar. When police booked Hedy Lamar for shoplifting in January 1966, tabloids howled, "Most beautiful woman in the world steals a tube of eye cream." To the public, it was absurd. Lamar was the exotic star of Algiers and Samson and Delilah, a woman whose face alone sold millions of tickets. Yet security footage reportedly showed her calmly tucking cosmetics and costume jewelry into her purse at a Wilshire department store. For Lamar, kleptomania mingled with a profound loneliness. After 6 marriages, broken fortunes, and a stalled acting career, she lived mostly in hotel rooms, tinkering with inventions no studio executive cared about. Stealing became a secret experiment. Could she outwit the guards the way she once outcharmed audiences? A guilty verdict resulted in a suspended sentence and probation, branding her a thief long after Hollywood had branded her a legend. The scandal hit just as she campaigned to license her spread spectrum patent, the same technology that would later enable Wi-Fi. Potential investors balked, fearing any partnership with a criminal actress could taint their reputations. Studios, already wary of her outspoken intellect, shut their gates entirely. Lamar faded into recluse status, receiving fan mail but no job offers. Yet in quiet moments, she admitted to friends that lifting trinkets granted a rush stronger than applause, a fleeting dopamine spike in a life scarred by typecasting and misogyny. Decades later, society would hail her as a visionary inventor, but Hedy never escaped the heartbreak of a talent ignored and a compulsion misunderstood. Her tale proves that brilliance and brokenness often share the same stage. Peter Lorre. On set, Peter Lorre's bulging eyes tracked everything, especially the tiny props directors hoped no one would notice missing. Between takes on Casablanca, crew members joked that if a matchbook or miniature chess piece vanished, check Lorre's coat. The actor who chilled audiences as serial killer Hans Beckert in M harbored a fascination with small objects, pocketing them like morbid souvenirs. Lorre's kleptomania stemmed from an uprooted childhood. Fleeing Nazi Germany, he arrived in Hollywood as an outsider, convinced the Dream Factory could exile him just as quickly. Pocketing props, keychains, lockets, hotel pens, felt like capturing proof he truly belonged. Each item was a passport stamp on his wandering soul. Warner Brothers executives found it charming until insurance bills piled up. When a rare ivory domino set disappeared during the Maltese Falcon, studio accountants traced replacements to Lorre's bungalow. A stern warning followed, but gossip leaked, and soon producers labeled him security risk. Roles shrank from leads to sinister sidekicks, not merely because of typecasting, but fear of on-set losses. Off-screen, Lorre's compulsive collecting strained friendships. Dinner hosts learned to count their silverware after he left. Colleagues staged playful searches, returning cigar cutters and money clips with forced laughter. Inside, Peter battled shame and anxiety, knowing each petty theft widened the chasm between the gentle philosopher he longed to be and the creeper audiences projected onto him. By the 1950s, health issues and career stagnation merged. The props he once stole gathered dust, silent tokens of a talent diminished by a compulsion never treated. Tula Bankhead. Tula Bankhead's soirees were legendary. Champagne pyramids, scandalous gossip, and by midnight, missing tableware. Guests often discovered their finest cigarette cases or ivory letter openers gone, only to spot them weeks later displayed proudly on Bankhead's mantle. The stage and screen diva dismissed accusations with a throaty laugh. "Darling, I simply liberated it from boredom." Beneath the flamboyance lay a restless spirit coping with chronic insomnia and depression. Stealing trinkets was her mischievous antidote to emptiness between curtain calls. She would stroll through department stores with entourage in tow, sliding silk lingerie into her handbag while reciting Oscar Wilde epigrams. Store managers, starstruck, pretended not to see until one filed a quiet police report in 1942. Though charges melted under studio pressure, the warning rippled through Broadway and Hollywood. Bankhead could no longer be trusted around valuable sets. Producers began bolting antiques to tabletops. Some refused to insure productions starring her, shrinking the roles she was offered. Yet Tula doubled down, turning kleptomania into performance art, raffling pilfered trinkets at charity galas, claiming she stole only for the thrill of giving back. The joke wore thin when unchecked thefts collided with dwindling box office draw. By the mid-1950s, Bankhead's name could no longer guarantee ticket sales, and her habit eclipsed her talent in gossip columns. She spent final years touring small theaters, hauling trunks filled with souvenirs she scarcely remembered stealing. When asked why she did it, she smiled wistfully. "Because nobody ever told me no, and I desperately needed someone to." Her life warns that applause without boundaries can feed compulsions until they devour the very stage they sprang from. If these revelations moved you, share your thoughts below. Have you ever heard other rumored tales of Hollywood kleptomania? Smash that like button, subscribe for more untold legends, and ring the bell so you never miss an episode of Hidden History. Until next time, keep your eyes on your valuables and your heart open to the dramas playing just out of sight.